Today we're diving into a really critical environmental battle happening in Africa's Sahel region. You've got this massive, expanding desert, but you've also got this incredible toolkit of techniques that people are using to fight back. So let's get into it and unpack how they're actually managing the land to hold back the dust.
So, let's just start with the biggest question right out of the gate. How in the world do you stop a desert from growing? I mean, it sounds almost impossible, right? But the solutions that have been developed are honestly a testament to human ingenuity.
Okay, first, let's set the stage. We are in the Sahel. This is a huge region that sits just south of the Sahara Desert, and this is ground zero for what we're calling the dusty dilemma, a challenge that impacts millions and millions of people and really the health of the entire planet.
What's happening is that this creeping desert is threatening the way people live all across North Africa. It's something called land degradation. But the solution, and this is the amazing part, it lies right there beneath our feet. It's all about how we manage the soil. And that's where this really powerful toolkit of techniques comes into play.
So let's start small, because, a lot of the time, the most powerful strategies, they don't start with some giant master plan. They start right there at the community level, where really simple changes can have a massive, massive impact.
Our first tool in the kit is called Fanya Juu terraces. Now, that name literally means throw uphill in Swahili, which is just a perfect description of what it is. You just dig a drainage channel, and you throw the soil you dug up uphill, and that forms a ridge. Simple as that.
The mechanics here are so simple, but they're incredibly smart. You dig the channels, you pile up the ridge, and that structure is amazing at trapping rainwater. It forces every precious drop to soak deep into the soil instead of just washing off the hard-baked land.
So what's the trade-off? Well, the biggest pro for Fanya Juu is that it's super low-tech. You don't need any fancy equipment, so pretty much anyone can do it. The con? It is seriously hard work. Building them is one thing, but you have to maintain them year after year, and that takes a ton of effort.
All right, our next tool, it sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel. It's called magic stones. But this is a very real, very clever technique. It's all about placing lines of stones along the natural curves or contours of the land.
And the genius here is just how simple it is. By laying these stones out along a gentle slope, you're essentially creating a natural barrier. This little wall slows rainwater way down, stops it from just washing away. And in the process, it traps the most fertile, nutrient-rich topsoil, which is exactly what your crops need to thrive.
And the results? They are absolutely staggering. In some places, these simple magic stones have boosted crop yields by 50%. I mean, just think about that. That's not just a number on a slide. That is a life-changing difference for a farmer's family and for a whole community's food supply.
So, what's the give and take on this one? The major advantage is cost, for sure. The stones are usually just lying around, so it's an incredibly cheap solution. The main limitation, though, is all about geography. You need land with a gentle slope for it to really work effectively.
Okay, on to tool number 3 in our kit, Zai planting pits. This one really gets down to the micro level. Instead of trying to reshape the whole landscape, you're creating these little supercharged pockets for plants to grow in.
The process is pretty straightforward, but it's powerful. You dig these small hollows in the ground, but you don't just pop a seed in. You fill the pits up with manure. This stuff acts like a super fertilizer and a tiny sponge, all in one, soaking up water right where the plant needs it most.
And the benefits are undeniable. It's a fantastic way to stop water loss and seriously enrich the soil. But, and it's a big but, there's the time commitment. This isn't a one-and-done kind of fix. Those pits have to be refilled with new manure every single year.
All right, so we've looked at these awesome, small-scale, local solutions. But now, let's zoom out. I mean, way out. Let's talk about the absolutely massive vision of planting a continent-spanning green wall.
This brings us to our fourth and final tool, afforestation. Now, we're not talking about a few terraces or some lines of stones anymore. This is the large-scale planting of millions of trees to create entire forests. And the most famous example of this, of course, is the incredibly ambitious Great Green Wall project, which aims to stretch right across Africa.
The environmental logic behind this is just solid. A huge line of trees acts as a massive natural shield. It breaks the power of the wind, which stops that precious topsoil from just blowing away into dust. And under the ground, the tree roots weave together like a net,
literally binding the soil and stopping water from washing it away.
But look, a project this huge is going to face enormous challenges. The benefit is obvious. You're tackling erosion on a continental scale. But the downsides are just as big. The cost is immense. Trees take decades to grow. And then there's the constant human pressure for firewood, which means the very trees planted to save the land are often at risk of being cut down for survival.
So we've gone through 4 really powerful tools, and each one has its own story, its own pros and cons. And all of this leads to a really important conclusion. When you're dealing with a problem this big, there is no single perfect silver bullet solution. This table really lays it all out, doesn't it? Fanyu is low-tech, but it's backbreaking work. Magic stones are cheap and boost yields, but you need the right kind of land. Zai pits are fantastic for the soil, but they're a huge time sink every year. And afforestation? It could have a massive impact, but it's so slow and so incredibly expensive. Each tool has its place, but none of them are perfect on their own.
And this right here is probably the most crucial takeaway. The fight to stop the desert isn't about picking one winner. It's a campaign that has to be fought on many different fronts at the same time. A truly winning strategy has to combine all of these approaches, from the hyperlocal Zai pit all the way up to the continental vision of a great green wall.
Which leaves us with this really fascinating question to think about. When we look to the future of the Sahel, is that future going to be built one small stone at a time, or one massive tree at a time? You know, the answer is almost certainly both. And figuring out that perfect balance, well, that's the great challenge that lies ahead.